Trust the Profits here, and we are here to debate whether the Triple Crown is dead. I am the Formula, joined by El Hombre and Vinny Blonde. Vinny, how's it going?
Good man, how are you?
Not bad, not bad. And El Hombre,
What up? What up? Yeah, the Triple Crown is dead. Spoiler
the
alert. There, I said it.
spoiler alert, the Triple Crown is dead. Let's jump into it. El
We're going
Hombre,
to debate it,
why?
though. We're not just going to be a hot take specialist here because I really do believe that, and there's several reasons. But there are a few reasons that I could if I wanted to play devil's advocate. But
If it's dead,
I
how
don't.
long has it been dead for?
Just a few years, I think, honestly. Maybe 5 or 10 years
Okay.
at the most.
I mean,
Because
you're
I think
talking about going back to Justify. After Justify, it died.
somewhere in that
Or with
that range
Justify,
to
it
me.
died. Okay.
Vinny, how do you answer that?
I think it's fine the way it is. I don't have a problem with it. I think we've just gone through a very unlucky turn of events in the last few years with the Derby winner, and it's kind of it's making everybody freak out about something that I think it's okay. I think it's challenging for a
I'm
reason.
glad you have that
Right.
opinion because
Yeah,
that's what
yeah.
we're here. We're here to
Yeah,
debate this.
it's challenging for a reason. Like I saw somebody tweet like oh they should change it because then like Triple Crown winners bring fans into the sport and we could use a few more and it's like well when you start like diluting the pool of Triple Crown winners it's like well what do we like what's the like why is it special?
What have we had, like 20 in the last 100 years or something like that? If
It's
that,
13 total, I
13
believe.
total.
I think there's
Yeah,
only
Yeah,
there's
it's
only
in the
not
last
20.
100 years,
yeah,
right?
Just
there's
happened to be real close together with Justify and Pharaoh.
right.
Right,
But the
right,
70s had three too.
right.
So it was like it's not like we went so long without one until Pharaoh that it kind of
Yeah, that
seemed
was
like it
crazy, man. I'll never forget that. That was super
uh,
special for
you like
even
it
even
kind
though a
of
lot of people put an asterisk by that, whatever. But
it was like
Hmm.
it seemed like completely elusive. And then you had Justify do it and okay, fine, like he did it. And then the whole controversy around him kind of like put
Yeah,
the whole thing in this downward spiral because I'm not like Pharaoh was great. You had that horse brought more people into the sport than any one person has in the last
yeah,
30 years. But then you had the controversy with Justify
right.
after his Derby, and you had Maximum Security getting DQ'd and Country House never running again. You had Medina Spirit getting DQ'd 8 9 months after the fact, and having Mandaloon declared the winner. Like it's just been. Then you had the COVID year where you had they ran it in.
Space.
Right, they ran it in September and they ran the Triple Crown races out of order.
Right.
You just
yeah.
had a lot of, and the last few years have just been very tough on the sport overall. And I think that's kind of, and then to cap it off, you have this year, you have the Derby winner say that the connection say he needs more time, so they're not going to try for the Triple Crown. They're just going to wait. They're going to wait for the Belmont, and like I feel like that's kind of I think that's what kind of set everybody off was like
Definitely.
these last few years have just been so bad on the
That's the
sport.
crux of my argument. But go ahead, Formula. I know you're about to say something.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you a question. I
Go
think
ahead.
you guys have more opinions on this than me. I am going with the flow on it. I guess my opinions are more along the lines of with the times changing in terms of how long people rest their top tier thoroughbreds, is 2 weeks in between major races of you know extremely long races, is that enough these days? Or are trainers going to say, I don't care about the Triple Crown, I care about my horse, I'll just skip Preakness, go straight to Belmont, give my horse some rest, we'll get 2 legs of it, and that's impressive enough, and send him off to stud? I think that's more of an issue than anything else. And I get why the trainers would do it or the connections would do it, because you want to preserve your horse. You don't want them to get injured, and you probably don't want them to lay a stinker in Preakness either. Obviously, the injury is a way bigger concern, but we even saw this with the last Preakness where everyone who participated in the Derby looked flat. Rombauer, as we talked about in a previous episode, was well rested and looked like the strongest horse out there. And we all know that Rombauer probably wasn't the best horse in that race if everything's even, right? If anything's broken about it, it's probably the spacing, right? That's my opinion on it.
And
Alombre,
To Vinny's point, that's exactly why he said that is what makes him special, and that's hard to
I
argue
get
with
it.
because it's kind of like hitting for a cycle in baseball. Anybody can hit a single, double, triple, but to do it all in one game, I mean, that's kind of a far fetched comparison. But at the
Yeah,
same time, it's like it is difficult for a reason.
or
And
breaking Cal Ripken's record because it's all
right,
about longevity
because
and
you're bringing it,
lack of
yeah, you're bringing
rest.
endurance and all those things into play versus
Right.
just being the best on a particular day. But the
Yeah.
fact that you have to ask that question to me is the reason why it is a little bit of a problem. But I don't think that's the biggest problem. I think the layoff in between is definitely a problem. Obviously, they're like you said, the safety of the horses is in question to certain trainers, and like you said, to just run a horse that's worn out that you don't think will be at its best after 2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah, why would you run them when they're worth way more? And I'm getting to the real problem here is that they're worth way more to be studded. So why would
Yeah.
you go out there? There's no reason to even try for it other than just straight up the popularity and the
Right.
historical things that come along with the Triple Crown.
To have a triple
But
crown horse. Right.
but if you're playing it strictly financial, I probably I have no problem with them pulling Rich Strike out.
Right.
And I think there's a lot of division in the people's thought process on that. But if they really do believe, and who knows what's in their head, maybe they got different reasons altogether. But for me, if I think Rich Strike is now going to go off the stud and be worth and probably will be worth way more by not running this race than to go out there and get fifth and it proved everybody that all the doubters that he isn't as good as he was
Right.
on that day. Then you've got what? You got a one hit wonder that like we've seen so many times that he'll run one if he was to come and run the Preakness and get fifth, let's say.
Yeah.
Then they'll retire him. So then what do you have? You get a one hit wonder. And if you stud him now,
Two
or I
wins.
mean, it sounds like they're going to do the Belmont, but who knows? I think they will.
I think they
But
will too.
I
if he
don't.
goes out and sucks in the Belmont, which I don't even know if I believe that he'll be in that, by the way. But if he sucks in that race, same thing. Like now, what's he worth? He's a one hit wonder.
So
I
what
don't.
is the
Compared to the
biggest problem
champion,
to you then about the triple crown then, El Hombre?
the biggest problem
The biggest problem. Yeah, I think
they
you were
haven't
getting
given
to it.
them
Maybe I missed it.
the there's races all year, including the Breeders' Cup and Dubai and other races that are worth more financially than the Triple Crown races are. That's a one. And they have to make it worth it to the owners to take the risk if they're going to leave the schedule the way it is.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of races throughout the year that are worth more money than, especially the Preakness. I mean, if you don't have a Triple Crown threat, why would you put anybody in that race at Pimlico? It's a cesspool of a facility, from what I hear. I've never been there. I don't know. You got to give them a reason. You got to Dubai and these other big races, Breeders' Cup, are worth way more money. I think that's why. That's my biggest reason why they won't run them anymore, or they don't really. Nobody focuses on the Triple Crown anymore.
Then you go for it.
I actually think Pimlico is a big reason that you see a lot of horses skip the Preakness, and I am waiting for the day they move that to Laurel Park because
And I don't think you lose. I don't think you lose any of the historical
No, you don't.
relevance
You
to
know,
the
if they
Triple
move
Crown.
it, if they move it,
Nobody
to,
would even know it.
if they move it to Laurel, you would get a lot more horses going because I mean I've heard this from people, and you're not the first person to say it about Pimlico, and you won't be the last. There's a lot of connections that just do not like shipping in the Pimlico, and unless you have a top tier horse that you really think is going to win, you don't ship your horse to Pimlico. And like
Right.
that. This is why the Preakness is usually you get a couple horses from the Derby and you get a lot of new shooters. And it's not just filled with Derby horses because a lot of connections are just like, it's not worth it. And we'll wait for the Belmont. And like, yes, the time between, I'm not a huge fan of the time between argument because I watched Dutrow run Willie Beeman off a 3-day layoff and win win a Grade One at Saratoga, probably what, like 10 years ago,
Sure,
with
it
Willie
happens.
Beeman. Yeah, he won a New York. He won a he won a stake on like a Wednesday or Thursday
Hmm.
with Willie Beeman, a New York restricted stake, and then wheeled them back in the Allen Jerkins and won.
Yeah,
Like so, like I like horses can run more than once a month. I don't think that's a huge thing. The financial aspect though is a big thing with some of these top horses because the money's in the breeding
yeah.
in the
Yep.
sport.
Oh yeah,
And that's where I've said this a few times, and I know I'm kind of alone on the island because this will never change. I just think there's too many graded stakes and too many Grade One stakes for, like, not saying the Derby shouldn't be a Grade One because I think the Derby is a Grade One, but as a 2-year old, you get a lot of these horses that ran as 2-year olds. That I mean, look at Corniche.
sure.
Corniche has 2 Grade One wins, and like, yes, I know he's back training with Pletcher, and hopefully
Hmm.
we'll see a comeback. But you have a Grade One winning horse at 2. There is no urgency to really run that horse back at 3. So like, you get these horses like, like, not saying they're gonna do this, but like, you have Cyberknife. I'm trying to think who won the floor. White
White Abario.
Abario, who won the Florida Derby. You have these Grade One winning horses that are now worth more at stud because they won Grade Ones, and they
Yeah,
weren't. It's not like they were the most expensive horses. Would I be surprised if either of them ever came back? No. Like, but if they retired them tomorrow, it wouldn't shock me either.
yeah.
And that's what having so many Grade Ones with these younger horses does is it creates these short careers,
It
and
becomes a
that's
liability for them to come back and suck. Like
right,
Corniche, if he comes back and
Or
he's just
injure.
flat, and Corniche is never the same as he was as the 2-year-old champ. I mean,
Yeah,
right, and
he's
like
worth
that's
less, honestly.
right, and that's where and that's where I think there's just too many Grade Ones, especially for 2-year olds. I mean, I'll die on this hill that there's way too many Grade Ones for 2-year olds, and it's
Breeders' Cup Juvenile should be it.
that's I've been saying that. I think in my opinion, the first 2 Grade Ones that they should be able to see are the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, and then there should be a Grade One Sprint for 3-year olds on the undercard for the Derby,
hmm
and there should be the Derby, and those should be 2 Grade Ones. And besides that, they're like, none of the prep races should be Grade Ones. They should all be Grade Twos and Grade
yeah,
Threes. And but it will never happen because there's so much money in the breeding. But if for some reason they ever did that, within a decade, you'd see a complete change of how long horses run for because you wouldn't see these short careers anymore. But when you get horses that, oh well, they won one Grade One and they finished second in back to back Grade Ones, so they're Grade One win and Grade One place. They're worth more at stud, and then it's like, oh well, here, I'll buy your horse for $10 million to stud him rather than you keep running him the rest of the year. And
right.
anybody's going to take that.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely.
I mean, I honestly think that's what's going to happen with Rich Strike. I think that's part of the reason he's not running in the Preakness is that I bet they got offered money for him right after the race because they only paid 30,000 for him. If they,
Mhm.
if somebody said, "Hey, I'll offer you 10, $20 million for him,"
To that
but
group that
just don't
really,
run him.
according to
Do you
everything I've heard, doesn't have many opportunities for $10 million or so far.
Right. Like,
So
you're telling me the little, like, that's my big. If the horse really does need rest, fine. I'm 100% what's best for the horse. But you're telling me the little group that this is their horse of a lifetime
yeah,
is not like, you claim a horse and he wins he ends up winning the Derby a couple starts later. The little connections don't want to try for like racing immortality. Just
yeah,
it
yeah.
doesn't feel right, and that's my big issue with it. And if
I have a different view on it. Been in this longer than me, Vinny, but I feel like when I look at Rich Strike and I look at the way he won the Derby, he won that Derby like within the last half of a furlong, maybe even less, right? And I have a feeling they're looking at it as, and I think we talked about this in another show. He might come out and disappoint in the Preakness and look like he did in like the 6 races before the Kentucky Derby, right? But Belmont, he's got that extra distance. We saw that the distance is really what he races for, what he excels at. Like the stretch for that last half mile, right? He might be able to blow away the rest of the field at Belmont. That's probably what they're looking for. Go out with a bang, the Derby and the Belmont. I think they're planning for that, and they don't want to let down and have a stinker at Preakness and ruin any sort of legacy
That's
that
that's
they
a
can
longer
establish with
distance
Rich
too, though,
Strike.
and that
Closers don't always win at Belmont, and that's like, I mean,
I don't think he's going to surprise anybody this time either.
No,
yeah,
no, for sure.
no, I get,
I think
I
they
get.
were all planning for each other. Zandon and Epicenter had the battle.
I
We all
mean,
kind of all
Zandon's. I
expected
mean,
there. But
They already said, and look at Zandon's another one. I know he's not a Grade 1 winner, but I mean, they already said
not.
he's not going to like Chad's resting him for the summer.
Yeah.
You know, and
Did they
like
already
that's
say that? I didn't hear that yet.
yeah, he's not running. He's obviously he's not running the Preakness. He's not running in the Belmont either. I'm
Wow.
Oh,
my guess is he's going. My guess is he's Chad's Haskell horse. I think he's gonna go Haskell Travers with him. I think
Okay.
he's got. Yeah, that would be my
He could win.
guess. But that's you know, but like that's what you have with some of these bigger name horses, especially the ones that are already well bred. Like there is no, because you know you're going to get money at stud with them. There's no need to push them into these into races like this, and like that's what makes this so hard. Is that like not only do you have to come back off a short layoff and face probably mostly fresh horses, but like it's the short turnaround, but you might
Yeah.
not be at the top of your game, and that's
What if
where
the
I like.
Preakness had a $5 million purse? You
It's
think
got a
they'd be?
one.
Do you think they'd be there?
I mean, if a 5 million, yeah, but
I
also,
mean, I'm just throwing it out there as a
yeah, if
as
How
an
to fix it.
example. I think
it's
they'd be
already,
there. I think all of them would be there.
it's a 1.5 million already though. I mean, at what point, like that should be enough to attract a very good field.
Yeah.
I think part of the problem with the Preakness is that it's in Pimlico. I really do.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
if you run
not
a
gonna
if
disagree
you
on
run
that.
a if you run a $1.5 million race, it's like, you know, the Travers usually gets a pretty good field. The Haskell usually gets a pretty good field.
Yeah.
They're just
Like,
as good as this. I mean, sometimes
yeah,
better.
right. Like so, I mean, who knows? Maybe some of these horses end up being great this summer, and we're looking at this Preakness field like it's like the best field ever.
Yeah.
But you don't always like. At some point, I mean, it's 1.5 million for the Preakness. I believe it's the same for the Belmont. Like it's just, I really think it's between it is the layoff and I think where it is.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still holding out for Belmont. I still think that is a potential for Rich Strike.
I hope he
I-
runs in the Belmont, even if he
Yeah.
doesn't win. I really hope he runs.
Yeah.
I just want to see him
Dude, it's
run
hard to
that.
not be a fan of that whole thing. That was
Right.
Yeah.
It was really cool. It was amazing.
It's an awesome story. But the
Yeah.
first thing I think of now that they're like, oh well, he needs rest, is exactly what they did with Country House. This is the exact thing they did
Oh,
with
you're
Country
thinking of that
House.
scenario. Right.
Yeah. He gets
Done.
DQ'd
Never
and
saw
he
him
wins.
again.
Yep, he gets DQ'd and he wins the Derby. They say he needs rest. He's going to point to the Belmont. Belmont comes and goes. Oh, he's going to start working out again for the summer. Then they're like, oh, we're shutting him down for the year. He's going to come back at 4. And then like the day after the Breeders' Cup, they're like, oh, hey, he's retired. And everybody's like, yeah, we knew that the first Sunday in May that you were done with him. And
That's why
Yeah.
I've got a
and-
feeling.
story
I got a
can't
feeling
get
that
any
could be
better.
very,
and that's
very
and
much
that's
a possibility.
right, and that's the sad thing that like as somebody who like pays attention to the sport,
Yeah.
that's the first place my mind goes when they say we're going to skip the Preakness with the Derby winner,
Yeah.
because it-
you
mine
remember
too,
Country
honestly.
House.
right? And it's like that shouldn't be it, but that's the state of the sport at the moment where
Yeah.
you're expecting worst case scenario on everything. So
I just find it amazing that someone would pay such stud fees after one race when there's like 6 other races before that don't look nearly as special. that
It's-
that don't really reflect as
Super
great
Rich
of a
Strike.
horse as we saw in that one race. I mean, you're paying for one race.
because
It's amazing.
he's a grade 1 winner. He's a grade 1 winner sired by a grade 1 winner whose grandsire is a grade 1 winner.
Yeah, it's got the
Like
lineage.
that
I
is
get it.
that's it. And like
Yeah.
he's a half to, I believe he is a half to a grade 1 or grade 2 winner on the turf too, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So like he's got the like his pedigree is solid. So why, I mean, right now with that one grade 1 win, he's probably only getting between 700 like $7,500 to $10,000 stud fee if they retired him today. I mean, it's not like he's getting anything like ludicrous. But
Yeah.
you do that and you book him to 150 mares for a couple seasons, that's worth more than running. Like you're going to make more money than you are keeping them in race shape and then running them in for a few $100,000 here and there,
Less chance of
hoping you
injury.
win.
Yeah.
Yep.
True
Yeah.
that.
All right.
Anything else to close this thing out? I think we are.
Did we settle the debate? I don't think we did, but I don't
No,
think
I
we're
don't
going
think
to.
so. I mean, I think we all believe what we believe, but I don't think anybody
Yeah.
got anywhere with what was right or wrong. I think there's all. I see good points on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think it's black and white.
No, it's definitely not
Good
black and white.
conversation to have, though. How do you fix that?
Yeah.
Because
Good conversation.
it should be the most prominent thing in horse racing to
Yeah.
me.
Good conversation to
Should be.
have, and let us know about it in the comments section. Let us know what you think. Is it broken? If so, how do you fix it? The Triple Crown.